Call to order the Whatcom County Council meeting for Tuesday, March 27th. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Tim BALLEW.
Here.
Barbara Brenner.
Here.
Red Brown.
Here.
Barry Buchanan.
Here.
Tyler BYRD.
Here.
Satpal Sidhu. Todd Donovan.
Here.
Would you all rise and join me with the flag salute?
You're the only one.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first thing is I'd please like to ask everybody to turn off your cell phones, and if you'll be handing out any paperwork to council members, please ensure that you give a copy to the council clerk. First up is we're going to have several public hearings, and audience members who've signed up in the back of the room prior to the beginning of our meeting will be called first, and are asked to form a line behind the signs on either side of the chambers. If you're unable to sign up before the meeting, you'll be given an opportunity to address the council once we've gotten through the folks listed on the hearing sheets. Each speaker should state his or her name for the record and will be given 3 minutes to address the council. Council staff will keep track of time limits and will let you know when you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your comments. When a large group of individuals supports the same position on an issue, we encourage the selection of 1 or 2 representatives to speak on their behalf for the entire group. It doesn't appear to be a problem tonight. All right. Okay, this is going to be a controversial evening. We don't have anybody signed up for the ordinance regarding the temporary installation of stop signs on Mosquito Lake Road. Does anybody wish to speak to that issue? Seeing none, we shall close that public hearing.
I move approval.
Well, I've got to read it first.
You already read it. You said the ordinance, temporary installation of stop signs
I
on
guess
Mosquito
I
Lake
did.
Road. You
That
did.
was the ordinance. All right. Moved approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bird's. Ms. Brenner moves approval. Mr. BYRD moves for second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour. Oh, sorry, it's a roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Tim BALLEW.
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Tyler BYRD.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. The next item up is an ordinance regarding the temporary installation of stop signs on Mosquito Lake Road during the Mosquito Lake Road North Fork, Nooksack River Bridge number 332 cap repair project. And I'm going to open the public hearing for that. We have no one signed up for that. Does anybody wish to speak to that issue? Seeing none, we shall close that public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
I'll move approval.
Ms. Brenner moves approval. Mr. Donovan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Tyler BYRD.
Yes.
Todd Donovan.
Yes.
Tim BALLEW.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sidhu excused. The next item up is an ordinance regarding temporary installation of stop signs on Noon Road at 10 Mile Road and Central Road during construction of the Hannigan Road 10 Mile Creek Bridge 236 replacement project. We don't have anybody signed up for that public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak to that? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
Ms. Brenner moves approval. Mr. Donovan seconds. Any further discussion?
Yes. In 30 seconds, since Mr. Rutan is here, and we've gone through 2 days and on a third, explain, the public doesn't know why we're voting on these.
Yes, stop signs carry the weight of law, so they require an ordinance passed by the council. As county engineer, I do have the authority to install a stop sign temporarily in an emergency as long as I immediately prepare the paperwork to be in front of you. So that was what the first one was. It was an actual culvert that failed, and so we put the stop signs out and brought the information forward. The second 2 are actually planned work. And the third one, the Hannigan one, we had spoken to the council previous. I know 2 council members were involved, but we had spoken about that Hannigan Road 10-mile bridge replacement project, and it was going to require the closing of Hannigan Road for 60 working days.
You did it in 30 seconds.
That's the timer. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Rudd Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up is a resolution supporting a community development block grant, CDBG, application and approval. If anybody would, we have Greg Winter has signed up for this. And if anybody else would like to speak to this issue, please please line up behind the podiums.
Good evening. I'm Greg Winter, Executive Director of Opportunity Council, and I want to thank County Council, the County Executive, and County staff for this 6th year in a row of the county agreeing to sponsor this community development block grant that in Whatcom County is primarily used for the purpose of helping to provide services in East Whatcom County at the East Whatcom Regional Resource Center. It's been a great partnership. This funding is used to help low-income residents of the East County area access a variety of services, not just Opportunity Council services, but other services that they seek and that are provided through partner organizations like ours, in addition to ours. And I think that's really all I need to say for the purposes of the hearing, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. And what's the wishes of the
Move to
council?
approve.
Mr. Donovan,
Whatever.
Three-way tie for second.
Mr. Donovan, and I think I'll give it to Mr. Ballou
Give it
this
to
time.
him. Yeah.
Motion was moved by Mr. Donovan and seconded by Mr. Ballou. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Okay, now we have the open session. During this open session, audience members will have up to 3 minutes to address the council on any issue relevant to county business. Before beginning to comment, please state your name and topic of interest for the record. If your last name is something other than Smith or Jones, please spell it for the clerk. Please ensure that you speak into the microphone. Please stand behind the signs located on the aisles as a courtesy to other speakers. Thank you for your cooperation. Please come forward. And if there's anybody else who wishes to speak, please line up.
My name is Laurel Cook. I'm a resident of Bellingham, and I have a good idea. And I went to City Council last night, and they were all over it, and they called me today and said, we can't do it because it belongs to county. So here I am. This is the story. Last Thursday night, my husband and I were at the new Cider House restaurant, which is in the old Cascade Laundry building there down by the Siri Center. It was a Thursday night, and it was just hopping. There were lots of people there. They were having a great time. We waited about 40 minutes for a table, and it was just a great scene. Also, at the old Royal McCoy, there's going to be a restaurant opening there. My point is there's no place to park. It was pouring down rain. The arcade is too far away. The arcade is good for the Pickford and Temple and Mount Baker Theater in that area, but it's too far to go from the parkade to there. We drive a smart electric car, so we just pull in behind an already parked car because there's usually room for two, but that only works for us, and I think it's probably illegal. But across the street, the courthouse parking lot was empty. There was one car in that whole area, and I don't understand why, like at 5 o'clock at night, you couldn't say, public parking, welcome to Bellingham, come on down. There may be liability or insurance, but really at the end of the day, you need me in downtown Bellingham at night. And they're working so hard to revitalize that area, it just seems like we should help them out. And it seems like you could just change the sign to say restricted parking until whatever time, 5, and then after that, it's open to the public. It belongs to us. So whoever can do that
Ms. Brown.
should.
I thought that was in the city.
No, Kelly called me this morning. Yeah, it's in the city, but Kelly Linville last night said, yeah, we can do that for sure. And then this morning, she called and said that she had done some research, and
So it's not in the city.
it belongs to county, or it's under your jurisdiction.
I think we need to hear from John.
I'm talking about the courthouse parking lot, yeah.
You need to come up here, John. Somebody,
Ms. Pointer.
come on. If it's in the city, I would think it would be the city.
Facilities.
Certainly something we could
Rob
look into.
Nye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rob Nye, Facilities Management. There's certainly something we could look into. Several things we have to consider. Some of those are rented spaces from our employees. Some people work late.
She's talking about after 5.
There's lots of folks that actually work quite a bit after 5 here, but we can certainly maybe look at a portion of it that we could open to the public, but with your consent, we can look into this and see if there's something that we can bring forward to you.
Mr.
And that's
Byrd?
not in the city?
It's county-owned property within the city,
In the city, but county.
south of the courthouse.
Okay, now I
Yeah.
get it.
Where are you parked?
I'm assuming that's what you're
Oh,
talking
well,
about.
they can have my
Immediately south.
spot anytime.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that night, there was one car. Yeah, when we arrived at 6, there was one car in the parking lot. So,
Mr. Byrd, and then speaking, sorry.
I think this is a great idea. It's an easy way for us to support local businesses, especially these two that are right next door, just getting up and going. There's no skin off our back. I mean, it's simple. It's not going to cost us really, I can't imagine it would cost us much money. And I drive by on the weekends, I drive by in the evening all the time, and that parking lot is the majority of the time, empty during those hours. So this seems like something we could do for the community fairly quickly, I would hope.
Mr. Buchanan?
I would totally agree. In fact, I would move that we ask the administration to look into, to see what they can do to make that happen.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Brenner?
Well, I don't mean to disagree with Rob, but if somebody's here, they're already here, so the spot's taken. It's not like somebody's coming in at night. I come here at night, and I just park wherever, and there's always lots of spaces. I would just say open to the public, period, after 5. I mean, the hours here are to 4:30. I just don't think it'd be a problem. So, yeah, I'm going to support it. I just don't think we need to go through all that stuff of looking into and blah, blah, blah. I mean, there it is, and it's empty all the time.
Well, I'm going to keep my motion the way I made it. So.
Did you get that? Did you get that? I hope so.
I
He
think
got you on the video.
Good. I'm glad.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd almost wonder, could we set some sort of timeline? I mean, would it be appropriate to hear back by the next,
You
at the
may
next
make a
council
friendly
meeting?
amendment if
Does
you
that
wish.
work for you, Rob?
Yeah,
Yeah, it works.
Okay.
Amend the motion to report back to the council at the next council meeting.
how about provide a solution
Yeah.
by the next
Public
council
Works
meeting?
and Capital
Okay.
Projects, my committee.
Is the clerk clear on the motion?
Oh, it's everything, and health, but that's.
Yes.
yeah.
Are you clear on the motion? Yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next up, we have one more lining up. If there's anybody else who wishes to speak, please line up.
Wow, can I get land that easy? I know there's a couple of open parking lots that are open all the time.
Jim, you gotta put your name.
Oh, I'm Jim Peterson, Peterson, Sudden Valley. Hey, I'm here to give a little update on where Homes Now is now. We have one of the tiny homes for our pilot project built, ready to go. We had a place to put it. We could house somebody today, but we don't. We have got some wins. Last night at City Council, the police chief notified us that they're going to put porta pots and dumpsters around some of the homeless camps now. They also made it legal for you to sleep in your car now, and they're going to come up with, today they were supposed to identify 3 or 4 spots that people could park long-term. So we'll see, it's supposed to, the porta pots and dumpsters are supposed to be done this week, by Friday, we were told. We don't know the locations yet, but we'll know that hopefully tomorrow. I'm here to ask where we're at with Homes Now. Are we making any progress? I talked to Todd, me and Doug had talked to Todd, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, before you left the country. We ran you out of the country or something. And we are willing to look at the jail site. We went out there and looked at it. It's a doable thing. We went and presented to the city of Ferndale. We didn't think we'd hear back because they notified us they don't have any homeless people, which they do, but they don't want to admit it. But 4 days after we met with them, they emailed us back, was glad that we came, wanted to talk with us more. We emailed them back about wanting to use the jail, but Todd notified us that since it's inside the city limits of Ferndale, they have to write the zoning and that. So we got an email back from the director of their planning commission that they wanted to sit down and meet with us to pick 3 days this week that we were available. We did. Still haven't heard back from them. So hopefully we hear back soon so we can talk to them. But that's where we're at. Our builder is chomping at the bit. He wants to start doing this, and so do we. We heard last night that Barry and Mayor Linville are going down to talk to
30 seconds,
Lehigh.
please.
So we're just kind of curious where we're at. We haven't heard much back and kind of interested. So that's where we're at.
Ms. Brenner.
Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Well, the person was gonna work on it is our deputy executive, is that what Tyler's name is? Yeah, and he's on vacation, but he told me he was gonna get this, get this to us information really soon. And my question to you is, was the person from Ferndale, was that Yori Burnett? The guy who's the planning guy?
I really don't know.
Because I'd like to,
Planning
when you
director.
meet with him or whoever it is, I'd like to meet with him at the same time.
Okay, yeah, because we'd mentioned bringing Todd or somebody from county council because we
I'd
don't
like to-
actually know what's needed.
Yeah,
We know something's needed, how they gotta word it or what, so, yeah, when we finally
Yeah, let
set
me
up the
know.
meeting, we'll let you guys know and invite you guys to be there, so.
okay.
Mr. Donovan.
Just quickly, yeah, it's, I don't know what we're expecting out of Tyler, but some of us have met with the planning director to figure out what the possibilities, and I think this is what we were talking, what the possibilities are for doing something in the UGA that would allow the pilot projects that you folks have been talking about. And we were actually talking about this. That's where we're trying to move the dial, is not necessarily just with Tyler, but can we, and I'll just sort of throw this out because I've had conversations with some members of the council, but not everybody. Now you've given me the opening in a public meeting, so I can do that. But can we do something that would be similar to what the city's doing in terms of allowing, whether we call them encampments or temporary, we're trying to come, what the wording for this is, in the UGAs, and there's probably more spaces in the UGAs if you took the same kind of ordinance that the city's trying to do. And that's the conversation that we've been having with our planning staff, and things don't go really fast, but that's a separate track from when you said, finding land. This is not about finding land. This is about like trying to find places where if a private landowner wanted to do something like that, we'd have the zoning that would allow it to happen. And I'm saying that so everybody knows that. That's
If you don't quit putting that in my face.
so that's a conversation I'm gonna have with.
I'd like to say one more thing I forgot to mention. We have half the money for the project in the bank sitting right now, so whenever we get ready.
That's
we
amazing.
move right on.
That's excellent.
Is there something that you, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. I feel like I'm a safe business now. Is there something we can do? Can we send a letter to Tyler? Because that was my understanding as well, is that they were going to get back to us, and this is, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago? To get an update on this in 2 weeks? Because I'd like to know what we're doing as well. When's he get back?
He didn't say, maybe a week or two, I don't know. But you could still send it over there and they'll get it to him.
Because
Yes.
it was my understanding we were going to be looking at property that the county owns as well, that might work for
That
this.
was
And
my
I haven't heard anything either, and I'm curious.
So, Mr. Buchanan.
I would suggest that, since you're the chair of the planning committee, I would suggest that you try to get that set up, maybe work with the clerk to work with the administration. And I'd love to have somebody come back in 2 weeks. And
We'll make it
Okay.
as a motion,
Go straight
and
to
so we can all vote for it right now.
What would the motion be?
It would be that you will get a hold of Tyler through, or, his office, that we need an answer about what we need to do, what changes we'd need to make, if any, and how we can do it by the next council meeting.
Okay, I'll take that motion. I move for that. I move that.
I'll second that take.
Okay.
Did you get that, you guys? Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. Is the clerk clear on what the
I
motion?
just want to confirm, you want the information by the next meeting, or are you going to invite them to the next Planning and Development Committee meeting to?
Both,
Invite them to provide the information.
yeah.
Yeah.
We need the
Okay.
information.
So we have a motion and a second, and the clerk is clear on the motion. All right, so discussion. So the one thing I will say is that we have had some discussions with them, and the ongoing problem with this is, first and foremost, it's about access to water, it's about access particularly to sewage facilities, and doing so in an area that doesn't impinge on a critical area and complies with all the long list of state laws that we have little ability to influence. So I remain very supportive of it. I just want to express the fact that it's not an easy thing to navigate through all the way the laws are written, and particularly very legitimate concerns about health and safety when it comes to sewage and so forth. So, Ms. Brenner.
I think it could be made a lot easier, and I don't think practically everywhere is a critical area. I do think we can do this, and, if we say this is what we want it done, and we need the information in 2 weeks, then we can get started. If we have to change some ordinances, we'll do it. But this whole idea that, it's gonna be so hard, it's only gonna be as hard as anybody makes it be, and I don't want it to be hard.
But I will say that the discussions I've had, there's certainly a desire to find a
Good.
solution that works from the people I was talking to. So,
So we got the motion.
Mr. Byrd.
I guess I have a lack of understanding here. I don't understand how it's possible for someone to sleep in their car or sleep in a tent in the forest without
Long-term.
water or access to a toilet. But if we give them a structure that's well-built that doesn't have access to a water or a toilet, how that's somehow worse.
They
Or
could
not
do
allowed.
The same thing that they would do for the others, like what you said.
Like in Seattle, that's what.
Can I just say something on that? Seattle's TC5, they have 50 homes, 24, they've added 5 more. They just
Wow.
added 3 more dorm tents in TC5. They don't have water and sewer. They use porta pots and a gray water collection system, and it works great. And it's sanitary, they have wash stations there, so they can wash. They do have electric, but they don't have water and sewer. That is down the road a plan. They have the land to build it on. They're just trying to raise the money to connect to water and sewer. And so, water and sewer is ideal. We'd love that. It'd make our job a lot easier. But without water and sewer, it's still very doable. It's very safe down in TC5, as Barry saw when he went down there. So I don't want that to be the roadblock that stops us and say, well, there's no water and sewer. Like the jail site doesn't have water and sewer. I'm sure it's accessible, but the cost would be tremendous for us. But we could do it with porta pots, gray water, and the way TC5 does, we find a water company like Cascadia that they use down there that delivers the 5-gallon, 100 of them a week. So that's what they use down there.
And I will say that I've recommended to them that they look at alternatives such as using porta potties to deal with the human waste issues. So,
Okay.
further discussion?
I got one more point,
Mr. Byrd.
actually. I'd like to say, what happened on Facebook with you here over the last couple of days with the post about your background, I think that was wrong, and what you're doing is fantastic as far as trying to move this forward. I appreciate the work that you've put into this and how much you've put into it and how consistent that you have been with it. And if someone has a problem with an idea, that's one thing, but to attack you as an individual who's passionate about something is entirely wrong, and I disagree with that. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Ms. Brown?
I don't do Facebook, so I don't even know what you're talking about, so
Somebody put my criminal
I
record
don't
out
want to
there.
even hear about it. I don't think it's, it just furthers whatever some jerk did. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
they just put my criminal record out there.
well,
I hate when people do that.
I think you're wonderful, so we don't care about anything like that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Mr. Dow, and if there's anybody else who wishes to speak, please come up.
Good evening, Council. I'm Chet Dow. I'm a resident of rural Whatcom County, and I wanted to encourage your approval of a resolution that I just got a chance to read over a little earlier this afternoon. It has to do with the WIRA 1 watershed planning process, and when the legislature passed ESSB 6091 in January, it called for Whatcom County and the planning unit and the initiating governments to work together on an update of our watershed plan. Essentially, as I understand what's in the resolution, it's encouraging more oversight on the part of you folks, the county council, over the process, and also working with the executive's office, and so that regular reporting takes place between what takes place in the deliberations of the planning unit, and these things can be brought to before the public. What this is really all about is greater transparency in an extremely complicated process. And having attended a number of these meetings for off and on over several years, it's unbelievable what's buried in all of this. And one of the concerns that I've observed is that the process, as it's been going along here in the last couple of months, appears to be a bit upside down. You have regular occasions when, quote, staff is brought up. Well, the public has no idea who, quote, staff is about half the time. I mean, you can figure out which agency sometimes, but you don't know who the people are, and this just really isn't good for public transparency. The staff, is my point, has been calling an awful lot of the shots, it appears, and the staff, of course, is employed by different agencies and whatnot, so I think this resolution that's
30
proposed
seconds, please.
would help bring this a little bit more out in the open for the public to know what's going on. Water resources, I don't have to tell anybody, you guys least of all, very important to everybody's life here. So this is about good government, and I would encourage you to pass the resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chet.
Thank you, Chet.
Who's there? Somebody come down.
Make a decision, gentlemen.
My name is Dana Briggs. I am currently homeless, but I am sheltered within the confines of Bellingham. A couple of months ago, I came before all of you at the time that we had yet another death, unfortunately, of a homeless individual in this jurisdiction. But I wanted to kind of piggyback on Jim's comments about where we're at with what the county is doing and what you, as the folks who we hire to govern on our behalf, and what things are going on and so on and so forth. So let me give you my thoughts about this. First off, the rules that we write to do or not do things are done collectively. They're not done in isolation. They're not done just by those of you that are sitting up here. They're with the input of everybody else. And the rules can be changed, the rules can be challenged, the rules can sometimes be thrown out. And the reason that I say all of that is because even though there may be rules, many times they're totally unjust. We've known that throughout the history of this country. And if you know somewhat of the history of this particular county and the city of Bellingham, there have been totally unjust rules that have been written for more than 100 years that dealt, unfortunately, with people's skin color, among other things. So, what I'm asking you to do is, to use a trite phrase, think outside the box. Every time that you turn around and say that it's difficult for us to do something because state law or the county laws or the city laws have prohibited us from doing something, try and figure out a way, if it is a just thing to do, to either rewrite those rules or throw them out altogether. Nominally, we are supposedly a nation of laws. Unfortunately, we've seen way too often that we're more a nation of the rule of certain select groups of people who get away with all kinds of nonsense. But what we're trying to do on the local level, because we can see each other face to face, is do things that benefit all of us, which includes those
30
that are
seconds,
homeless
please.
and part of community. So keep that always first and foremost in your mind, that the homeless, regardless of what others may think, are part of our collective community, and they deserve as much support as we can give them, just as we would do the elderly, children, and those who unfortunately were born into the world with other challenges. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ellison.
I hate to speak after that. That was so good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But I'm here. Oh, you talked about parking. And, you know, I'm going to talk about parking, and this means I'll be able to go home and see my wife tonight because she's been on my back. Because last year, I came to you and said, look, there's a piece of property out at Birch Bay. Now, the C Shop does not need this for parking, but Birch Bay needs it for parking. I pointed out the property, and then you guys said, oh, you can only put maybe 1 or 2 cars there. Now, listen, I'm talking about, yes, you need to go for a shoreline permit. Yes, I'm willing to have somebody sketch it up and show where parking could actually go in it. And yes, it would be right across from public restrooms. And guess what? Within easy walking distance from a Whatcom County beach that we keep hidden from people. Right? Oh, he's doing something else. So I'd like to have some serious consideration for the county to buy a chunk of property that will be difficult to develop because it floods in the winter. But all we need to do is have the parking in the summer. So that's what I want. I'm going to come after you on this. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in the open public session? Seeing none, we'll close the open public session and move on to Finance. So Finance today considered 3 items on the consent agenda. I acted as a temporary chair in Mrs. Sadhu's absence. There's one change on one of these. There's one that failed to secure enough votes, and there's one that was passed. The first one was passed was item 1 from the consent agenda, and the committee moved approval for this, and I so move.
Approval for which one?
Item 1, which is, do you want me to read the thing into the record?
Okay, and then which one was a change?
I was going to read those separately. So for the sake of clarity, let me read them each individually.
Okay.
The first item is the request authorization for the county executive to enter into a contract between Whatcom County and the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission to receive funds to conduct the on-the-water patrols during the peak boating period in the amount of $16,810.69. This received a vote of 2-0 with Mrs. Sadhu excused, and I so move.
Second.
Right. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mrs. Sadhu excused. The next item was to request authorisation for the county executive to enter into an interlocal agreement between Whatcom County, City of Bellingham and the Port of Bellingham for the purposes of economic development in the amount of $967,550 for the year 2018, $974,845 for the year 2019. This received a vote of 1-0 with one abstention. It failed in committee, but I move it forward for the consideration of the council. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, why, who abstained and why?
It was me. We built the Choose Whatcom project, and they've been an ongoing project client of ours for several years, so I don't feel comfortable approving money
Okay.
towards it.
No, I just like to know, and, I mean, people abstain sometimes, so.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. So that passes 5-0 with one abstention. The next item up was request authorisation for the county executive to enter into a 3-year contract between Whatcom County and West Publishing for online access to legal research databases and a print service subscription for the Whatcom County Law Library in the amount of $139,516.36. The amount discussed and approved at committee today was a smaller amount. The revised amount is as detailed in the purple copy here.
I move. Approval.
So, Mr. BYRD moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Donovan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions, and then so that passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Okay. Next item up is natural resources.
Natural Resources had a recommendation for resolution establishing a Lake Whatcom Stormwater Utility Advisory Committee, as we moved 2-0 with one member absent, to recommend that the council approve this resolution to appoint an advisory committee that will sunset after the stormwater utility is set up. So
Okay.
it passed 2-0.
So are you moving forward there?
And I move that forward.
Okay, so it's moved forward. Any discussion? Seeing Mr. BYRD.
Yeah, I wasn't here for when this tax was approved or this district was approved, and I guess my concern with this is that taxpayers, property taxpayers in Whatcom County this year have seen the largest tax increase in the history of Washington State, with many families seeing over 10% increase on their property tax bill, and they continue to move forward with another tax that's going to be levied to them, or a portion of these people. I'm not okay with that, and I think it's wrong. So I think it's bad timing and in bad form to some extent.
Mrs. Brenner.
Well, I sort of said that, and I said I wouldn't support it unless they did it a certain way. I think if people do stuff on their own property and become neutral or even positive in, no net pollution off their property, they shouldn't be charged anything. And it should only be people who are doing that, and that will incentivize people to do stuff on their property, and then it won't cost them anything. Now, I don't know what we're gonna end up with, because I didn't support it, without knowing these things. So I agree with you, but I do think there's a way to do it that either everybody will start fixing their property so it's not polluting, or they'll pay, which is, to me, that's fair.
Mr. Donovan, and Rod, just before you speak, I'd like to ask Mr. Hutchings to come up, if you could. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna follow up on Mr. Byrd's, and I share the frustration with the large tax increase imposed by the state, not this council. So that makes it a difficult thing to do. But this is a process to set up how people in the watershed will participate in figuring out how that tax, and I'll call it a tax, not a fee, because it's a tax, how it might be levied and how exemptions might work, and that it's part of that public process, and we have not yet determined what the level will be, what exemptions there might be. And, this is
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Mr. Byrd.
I will vote for this because I believe that they should have input on that, and I totally 100% agree, but I just want to be on record that I don't support the tax itself.
So, Mr. Hutchings, the reason I asked you to come up was because my understanding is that in relation to this tax, I think there's two things that are relevant. One is the tax rate we set was equivalent to what a city of Bellingham taxpayer would pay for stormwater.
It wasn't final.
And the second part was that if there are expenditures out there required that are not funded by the residents of the area, then they are funded by the rest of the county. So in other words, someone pays the tax bill, and I'd just like you to speak to both of those if you would.
Yeah, John Hutchings, Public Works Director, and I think your reference to the level of service that was being contemplated by the council at last budget time was, when you looked at the numbers, the burden of that on the ratepayers in the unincorporated Lake Whatcom watershed would be, was contemplated to be on the order of equivalent to what City of Bellingham ratepayers pay for their stormwater utility. That was an informational conversation that was held, that was had with the council during a surface water work session prior to your formal adoption of the boundaries of the district. So you formed the district, you established the boundaries of the district, and recognized that there needed to be a public process and contemplation of all of these questions in advance of actually setting the fee for service. And that's the direction that we were then given by you in the aftermath of that, was to move forward that public conversation, and that is the work that is being done now. So in order to provide the community with the information they're going to need to understand the costs and benefits of the work contemplated in the watershed by this stormwater utility, there's quite a bit of work that has to be done behind the scenes to support that. And then you asked the question about who is bearing that burden now, and you're right. The rest of the county taxpayers are currently bearing that burden.
Ms. Brown.
Well, my recollection is we did the boundaries, and we were talking about setting up this committee, but I don't remember that it was any finalized on how, what would happen about payments. And I brought this up at that meeting about, I don't think people should have to pay anything if they're not creating the problem. And I think it's a much more positive way to get people to take care of their property and keep it from polluting. So I don't think, and I remember somebody from Public Works, I think it was, saying, yeah, we're gonna work on that. So that was not a final, as far as I know.
I think that reflects what I just said, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but you said something about doing what the city did. We just.
No, let me just,
Okay.
for the record, make sure that I'm absolutely clear. So in preparation for getting everybody on the same page with respect to what the implications of forming this, going down this path of forming a stormwater utility, and then having a public conversation about local fees for local benefit, that there would be a conversation about how those rates would be set, how they would be assessed, and at what level homeowners in the watershed would be burdened by those fees. And we had a conversation with the council at that time about what the appropriate range looks like, and the conversation included observing that in order to get in order to take the burden off the rest of the county taxpayers and move this whole Lake Whatcom TMDL, the cost of that forward, there would have to be a rate somewhat in the vicinity of what the city taxpayers are paying for the same type of service. The city ratepayers for their stormwater utility.
Mr. Byrd.
Mr. Hutchins, what I'm wondering is, how did we take the burden off the rest of the county? Because as far as my understanding, we raised the flood or fund tax as well on the rest of the county. So in my mind, if we were taking the burden off the rest of the county, somehow the rest of the county would be getting that tax revenue back or a tax decrease, and yet instead we look at two tax increases as they relate to water.
Yeah, going back again to last biennial budget, there were a number of new services that have been growing in cost burden over the course of the last couple of budget cycles around water resources. And those include, of course, the response to the Hearst decision. They include the water quality programming in the north and northwest of our county. They included some additional work in and around the Lake Whatcom watershed related to implementing or responding to the state and federal total maximum daily load rules for Lake Whatcom and the whole Lake Whatcom management program. And of course, you all will, I assume, be attending that joint councils meeting tomorrow night to talk about that program. And then, and that all is in addition to, of course, the growing burden of the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, which all of our growing urban counties and municipalities in western Washington, and actually around the country, are also having to finance at the local level. So all of those things came into play as this conversation about how to finance that work was had in advance of last year's biennial budget, and the result of that was a decision by the council to increase the flood tax in order to accommodate that. And that's sort of what it boils down to. So the model that has been in place in Whatcom County for many, many years since the initiation of the flood control zone district and the subzones that are associated with it is that for those benefits that accrue to all or most of county citizens, then there's a county-wide form of source of revenue for that. And in the case of water resources financing, that's the flood control zone district tax. For those benefits that accrue to localized areas around the county, there have been formed over the years subzones, diking districts. In the case of Birch Bay, a subzone that raises fees for the purpose of solving stormwater problems and delivering stormwater services up there. So that local benefit for, local fees for local benefit model has been in place for many, many years. The one place it doesn't, or actually two places it doesn't exist in Whatcom County are the Lake Whatcom watershed and Lake Sanish. That's the background.
Mrs. Allen.
I was going to, if Mr. Hutchins has to be very diplomatic when he answers that question, but another way to put it is the council years ago passed needed policies for stormwater management, water quality programs to respond to NPDES, to pollution identification control stuff, stormwater things around the lake, to ramp up services that we need, and we never really funded it. We just started burning through reserves. So I think one of the reasons why we're looking at both the utility with a tax in the watershed and also the flood fund fee going up is if we want to, we either do that or we start cutting services because we never really fully funded all of these programs, and we're maybe got a year left of reserves. So this is kind of realizing the reality of we've been doing these programs without really paying for them. I don't know if John would put it that way, but
yeah. So there might be some value in going back and taking a look at the public documents that were made available in the build-up to last year's budget decision. And there were some documents that demonstrated what those levels of service look like and what the benefits that would accrue to the community from those increases in service. And you've probably seen them before. So if you'd like to take a look at those and sort of review how that all got to where it is today, I'd be happy to accommodate that.
Yeah.
Because it will come up again at budget time, right? We know it will. So.
Well, maybe it's a good time to rethink how we do all of those and use the model I'm talking about of people want to take care of their own property. They should, we should say thank you and not charge them anything. And I don't know that it's the majority, but I think there's a significant amount of whatever pollution there is in the Lake Whatcom watersheds coming off the public roads. So that's part of it. I know we're doing better, but it's still happening. So I just think we need to look at this differently than just make people pay and do stuff. It's kind of all or nothing. I don't like it.
Well, I, for one, am more than happy to have those conversations with you all.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this issue? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up was back to finance, a resolution amending the 2018 flood control zone district and subzone budgets. First request in the amount of $50,000. In this case, the council is acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. This received a vote of 2-0 with 1 excused, and I so moved.
Second.
We discussed this in committee today, and I'm going to support it under the stipulation that my belief is this is money that's supposed to be for the planning unit directly and indirectly, and not for other agencies or organizations. And I want to make sure I put that on the record, because that's the only way I'm supporting it. And that has a little bit to do with clarification about the different roles of different agencies, the council, the planning unit, all that in the water resources issues. And that's why I think it's important that we do this resolution. It's on for introduction only, but I think it's very important.
Further discussion? Mr. Byrd.
Yeah, I would echo that. I will support this because I know that we need to give funding to the planning unit so that they have the staffing required to get through this process. But if this money doesn't make it to the planning unit and they don't get the resources and they come back for more money, I think then we have an issue, because this is meant for the planning unit as far as I'm concerned, as far as that's been informed or told to us. So.
And I didn't attend the recent WIRA planning unit meeting, but I did listen to the minutes. And it seemed to me there was a, I'll say it very politely, misunderstanding about who gets the money and what the council did. The council never did vote to give our authority to another agency. We didn't do that. We voted on the process only. And so I just want to make sure people understand that. That's why I believe strongly that this money is meant for the planning unit.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Tim BALLEW,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown,
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Byrd,
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. The next item up is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2014-078, establishment of the 2015 Lighthouse Marine Park Improvement Fund and project-based budget for Lighthouse Marine Park improvements, for the first time to add $24,500 of expenditure authority for a total amended project budget of $274,500. This received approval from the committee with a vote of 2-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused, and I so move. Any discussion?
Second.
Mr. Byrd seconds. Actually,
we
for
need to
clarity,
say-
we don't need to clarify. If
Because
it
it
comes
came
out
up
of committee, we don't
committee.
need
Yeah.
to clarify. So,
Unless there's only one vote.
yes, in which case it has to have the full vote. That's right, okay.
Okay, let's vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes. That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadoo excused. Next item up was an ordinance amending the 2018 Whatcom County budget, fifth request, in the amount of $557,000, $557,818. This received a vote of 2-0, and I so move. Any discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Tyler Bird,
Yes.
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mrs. Sadoo excused. The next item up was an ordinance amending the Whatcom County Code, Chapter 2.130, to revise the Economic Development Investment Board membership. This received a vote of 2-0, and I so move. Any discussion?
I just want to say for people who don't know, we did all this in committee, so if we seem like we're rushing through this, it's because we did the discussion. Yeah, it's not like we didn't.
There's audio. It's recorded.
There's recording, yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Todd Donovan,
Yes.
Tim Ballou,
Yes.
Barbara Brenner,
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Red Brown.
Yes.
Barry Buchanan,
Yes.
Tyler Bird.
Yes.
That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadoo excused. Next item up was a resolution authorizing the Whatcom County prosecutor to file a claim with the state of Washington seeking reimbursement for the unfunded ballot box mandate. This received a vote of 2-0, and I so move. Any discussion? Is that you, Mr. Bird?
Yeah, I have a question. I want to make sure I'm reading this right. Are we asking them to give us the million plus the 257,000 back, or are we asking for the $8,000 for the 3 ballot boxes?
My understanding is $8,000.
It's the 8,000, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought too. I don't see how this makes any kind of economical or financial sense to us. How do we spend less in just man hours gathering the information to send down there to litigate this? I mean, it's going to cost us more in fees than we're going to get back from them.
Mr. Donovan?
Well, they already wrote it.
Yeah, I appreciate that concern. I think, and the auditor's not here, but in emails with her, the Associated Counties wants as many counties as possible to join in on this. And as much as our prosecutor's office wrote a letter in support of this, I don't think we're actually paying the litigation costs. So it's to try to get a precedent where as many counties as possible are joining in on the Association of Counties. And I might have this wrong, but
No, that's cool.
to try to set a precedent where, like, if the state's going to pass a law that requires us to spend money on something, they got to fund at least part of it. And this would be a test case where they said, and it's a good policy, more drop boxes for ballots and stuff, but they didn't provide a dime. And if we can get like all 39 counties to sign in on this, and then the Association of Counties kind of carries the water on the lawsuit.
And they got good lawyers.
Yeah, but and I hope somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think my understanding is like it's not our prosecutors doing the staff work on the lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I
think that's how it's supposed to work.
Your understanding and mine are in complete sync.
Yeah.
So,
Could I look at Karen, but I think, do I get that right? Because this is like on TV, I really don't want to be wrong.
Uh-oh, well, then
Well, it's
several of us are wrong then.
I don't like being wrong when we're off.
I'm sorry to say, I don't know the answer to this because all I can tell you is I'm not doing it, but.
Right, and I don't think the prosecutor's office is doing it.
I'm assuming that that's the case. I certainly haven't heard anything to suggest we were going to have the laboring or in this, so.
Yeah, because then we'd be like putting in time for an $8,000 payout, but this is more, I don't think it's not costing us, but it's a it's a policy goal more than the $8,000.
So my understanding, I'll see if I can echo it back, and I think it aligns with what you're saying, is that it's the Washington Association of Counties that is filing the claim. We are simply joining as one of the plaintiff counties to say that we object under the provisions of state law from being asked to do things, anything for which, by the state legislature, for which they don't give us the funding to do. So that's
Not
the
anything
principle.
in this case, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
but
very
that's the principle.
specific, but
Yeah.
this, that's what he said.
So the way I was reading it is that the Whatcom County prosecuting attorney is authorized to file the claim,
Right.
which is coming out of our budget for their time, hours, and their resources, right?
The prosecution
No.
of the claim is being done by the
Doing
Washingtons.
through WASAC.
But you're right, that is how it's written. so
It's how it's,
So,
I could be wrong, but my guess is there's a form that's been prepared by
Right.
the state association that will it'll take, just moments to do. That's my guess.
okay.
So we're like interveners on something, or we're just?
We're
joining?
just joining in,
Yeah.
I think we
but it
just,
doesn't mean we're spending
Yeah,
money.
I've been involved in prior litigation involving similar issues of unfunded mandates, and while we all participated, it was kind of a centralized litigation that didn't require a lot of resources from us. But again, I'm not personally acquainted with what's going on here. I can bring back more information or find out tomorrow and send you emails, but I can't do it right now.
I'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Brenner.
Well, we could pass this on the assumption that that's correct, and if it's not, it won't, we're not passing it. We're passing it with that assumption.
Well, there's no budget ask, right?
I know, they're not asking for anything, and we don't have to spend anything. But it was my understanding, just the same as what Councilmember Donovan said, that they want all of us on, as the big plaintiff of 39 counties. But, yeah.
For
So,
$8,000.
Just one more comment. If this was something that was taking a lot of resources from our office, I'm pretty confident that I would
Somebody.
know about it because it's come up, to my knowledge, just in the past week or so. And
Well, we can say no.
I'm actually, the one, I'm the one who's been in charge of the office for the last couple weeks because Dan
Oh,
Gibson's on
that's
vacation, so I would think I would have heard about it. So again, I'll get back to you if I find out something different.
further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up is a resolution authorising the county executive to sign an agreement with the Washington State Recreation Office to receive matching funds to support acquisition of purchase of development, PDR conservation easements. This received approval of vote of 2-0 with one exception, one excused, and I so move. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes with a vote of 6-0 with one excused. Other items from finance was to request authorisation for the county executive to enter into a contract amendment between Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District and Washington State Department of Health to provide additional funds and time extension to support the pollution identification and correction program in the amount of $300,000 for a total amended contract amount of $1,015,000. In this case, the council is acting as the Whatcom County Flood Control Zone District Board of Supervisors. This received a vote of 2-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused, and I so move. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. So I'll check something here.
The planning and development, isn't it?
No, sorry. Now we're back to planning and development.
Okay. The I'm gonna mess this up, but we're gonna give it a shot. I should take the notes. The Planning and Development Committee passed 3-0 a motion to request for additional 1-year extension for final approval for the Lincoln Road Long subdivision and planned unit development.
And you so moved.
And I so move. Thank you.
This has been moved from the committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up is council appointments to boards, commissions and committee. The first one up is appointments to fill 2 vacancies in the Draining District Number 6 Board of Supervisors, Position 1 and Position 2, per RCW 85.38.070, parentheses 5. The applicants are Edward Thompson, Position 1, and Jim Bjornsted, Position 2. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval by acclamation.
Second.
Ms. Brenner moves approval by acclamation. Mr. Buchanan seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up is an appointment to fill the vacancy on the Drainage Improvement District Number 15, Board of Supervisors, Position Number 2, per RCW 85.38.070, parentheses 5. In this case, the applicant is a Marvin Verguden Hill. And please accept my apologies because I know I messed that up. So that's the motion, do I have a motion to approve?
Move to appoint.
Mr. Donovan moves approval. Is there a
Second.
No, he can. I don't care.
You guys taking a
I'll
better
second.
shot at it?
Whatever.
All right. I'm not clear.
Second.
Mr. Donovan, Mr. BYRD was the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Next item up is executive appointments to boards, commissions and committees, and the request confirmation of the county executive's appointment of Gary Malik to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to confirm.
Second.
Mr. Donovan moves to confirm with Mr. BYRD second. Any discussion? Mr. Donovan?
I know that Gary's been very active in the bike to work stuff at Western. I'm really glad to see him getting this appointment.
Is he going to bike to the committee?
I would not be surprised. I see him on a bike
Good.
Then that's probably
going
yes.
through my neighborhood on his way home, so he will be.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. Introduction items. We have 2 items, number 1 and 2, and Ms. Brenner has a third one, which I'd like to
Yeah.
suggest we
I
vote
move
separately.
that we also include item 3. Council members Brenner and BYRD request the following item to be added to introduction this evening. Resolution recognizing, the roles and duties of Whatcom County, the WIRO 1 Planning Unit, and the WIRO 1 initiating governments regarding water resources planning under RCW 90.82 and ESSB 6091.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we separate these do item 1 and 2 together, and then we'll vote on yours because it was a late introduction. That's all right. So, Ms. Brenner?
I don't want to separate them.
Okay, well, I've asked to separate them.
Well, we'll see if we
Normal
get-
custom is any person can ask
This
to
is for
separate.
introduction only,
I know.
and it's,
And you have asked for things to be separated before.
yes, I have when I didn't want them.
Okay,
Maybe that's what.
Well, maybe it is.
okay, so items 1 and 2, vote for introduction. All in favour say aye. Oh, sorry, any discussion on items 1 and 2?
Second.
Okay, motion, and did I make the motion, I think? Yeah, I made the motion, so I made the motion, Mr. Buchanan second. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0.
Aye.
Eh?
A little late.
So
but-
fast.
It's 5 in the morning.
Okay, let's do the vote again. All in
On
favour of
items 1 and 2.
items of 1 and 2 being introduced?
Okay.
All in
Aye.
favour?
Aye.
Ready, set, go.
Well,
already
you
did.
didn't do it now.
Let's do this again. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. And then the next item is the one Ms. Brenner just read in. Do I have you have a motion to move that in? Do we have a second to move that in?
Second.
Mr. Byrd moves that in. Motion and a second. Discussion. I would, Mr.
I don't have discussion about the item, but just to clarification about the concern of the agency from the last planning unit. I didn't make the planning unit meeting last week, so I don't know the.
I wasn't at the planning unit meeting. I listened to the minutes. So are you talking about surface water?
No, not the surface water, the BYRD planning unit. The discussion of having, there's a concern that agency outside of the county is.
No. Can I answer him?
This is Britta.
There's concern that the county council, which really represents everybody, and we're, you know, the only one that does, has been kind of, let's see, I don't want to say usurped, but kind of been given a back seat on a lot of issues that have been discussed and voted on, or will be. And including what Gary Stoika said at the planning unit meeting, it made it sound, because some people asked him questions, it made it sound like we had given authorization for another agency to make decisions instead of us. And that's what I want to see us be in the final decision, which is what we're supposed to be.
Mr. Chair.
To keep an active role.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
And that's all this does. It's extremely positive, but I didn't want to blindside you guys, so it's only on for introduction. You have 2 weeks to go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Mr. Byrd.
Tim, or Mr. BALLEW, Councilmember BALLEW, we're still learning. I think it's just clarity at this point. It's some of the community members have expressed concern, and they want us to be on the record with what is our intentions and to be clear with everyone. And so we're just trying to create more clarity as far as what the intentions are, and that we intend to continue to be involved and to continue to have a say-so.
So, Ms. Frakes, are you still with us? It's a bit hard to see you in the corner. Could I just ask you to come up? So I got a phone calls expressing concerns that this was not reflective of state law, or perhaps you could speak to that.
Yeah, I received this later in the afternoon and looked over it and had some concerns about consistency with state law. I'm not saying I, am convinced it's not consistent with state law, but I did have enough concern that I didn't want to sign off on it until I had a chance to look at it more closely. And I also talked with Gary Stoika and got some input from him. So I think it's important that we look at this closely before you take action on it. But we've got 2 weeks to do that.
Can I respond?
Yep.
This was shown to Bob Carmichael, and he said it is consistent with state law, and he wrote a letter
Right,
saying that. No, I'm just saying,
right.
Another attorney who used to be our attorney too.
My biggest concern is I haven't really been involved with this to date, and Dan Gibson, who has been involved with these issues, is going to be back later in the week, and so I didn't feel comfortable just delving into it, but saw enough into it that kind of made me hesitate, so.
This is just for introduction.
Right.
Why are you, let her be able to do it.
Further discussion?
Yeah,
Mr. Don.
in terms of process, but, and I'm just barely been able to read it, but I'm willing to introduce it. Would we have a chance to talk about it in committee of the whole, or do you want to just bring it back?
Any way you want to do it. We got 2 weeks, and people can make a decision how, through committee would be fine. I don't really care. I think it's worth reading really well. I think it's really good.
I thought you just went off and wrote it in like 20 minutes.
Sure, that's exactly what I did.
So I have concerns about this because, in particular, I support some aspects of it. I don't have, I certainly support anything that makes the process more open and transparent, although I think it's fairly open and transparent as it is. I have no objection to increasing that or at least making statements to that effect, if people have concerns that it's not. But I do have concerns over the following sentence, that the planning unit is the sole entity established under RCW 9082 responsible for recommending amendments to the Wyra 1 watershed management plan for council action, and that's inconsistent with my understanding of the role of the joint board and the other stakeholders. And for that reason, I'm not supportive of this as a resolution. Ms. Brenner.
This is for introduction. We're not supposed to go over it and get into all the details for an introduction item. That's what the whole purpose of introduction items are, so you have 2 weeks to do that. And I don't agree with you on your opinion. So.
Further discussion? All right, all in favor of introduction, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0 with Brown opposed. 5-1.
Who was the one?
Me.
Oh,
And my reason for opposition is simply I don't believe that Section 3 is correct.
you don't need to.
Next item up is committee reports, natural resources.
Natural Resources had a presentation today from Washington State University Ag Extension folks on the work they're doing here in terms of applying research to ag practices, and also about their composting and master gardener programs, and it was really good. We also then had a presentation, quick discussion about the resolution that we have already approved about the Lake Whatcom Stormwater Utility Committee, and one item was removed from discussion on mineral resource lands, and we're going to come back to that later.
And then on finance, the update was we had a presentation from Deputy County Executive Tyler Schroeder on the expansion of the Crisis Triage Centre with a proposed plan of what it would look like here. Just happen to have one. The good news is we've got the funding for it. We're now discussing whether we do an extension to the existing building or whether we build a standalone facility. And then the next up is the Special Committee of the Whole, in which case we had a discussion with Assistant Chief Civil Deputy Prosecutor Karen Frakes regarding the potential opioid litigation against manufacturers and distributors of prescription opioids. And there was a proposed motion.
Since we met and since I helped put together the motion,
right,
I realized that it might be better to wait on this until we actually have a retainer agreement that I've had a chance to review and you have a chance to see, and just like we do contracts, authorize the county executive to enter into it. I have received, in fact, this evening, when I first got to the meeting, I realized I received a proposed retainer agreement, and so I plan to work on that in the next few days and have it ready for you to look at the next council meeting. So just thought I'd say that before you spend a lot of time discussing it.
Do we, is there any restriction on us discussing
No,
the topic itself?
not at all. You're free to discuss, but I just didn't think the motion was probably appropriate quite yet.
Okay, so I
How
will
about
not.
moving the table till the next meeting?
Well, I haven't made the motion, so there's nothing, yeah, so, but just for the benefit of the audience, we had a presentation regarding collective litigation. I think there's 400 cases now of city and county governments around the country that are moving against what they feel is the inappropriate promotion of the use of opioids which is resulting, I think, in 150 deaths a day now in the country. And I'm certainly supportive of pursuing that. Ms. Brenner?
We had this in executive session for a reason. Why are we talking about it before we do that? I don't know. Why did we have it in executive session?
Well, I think that what Mr. Brown is saying are factual matters that
Right.
don't pertain to the legal discussion. the reason
Don't?
it was, well, I mean, they're relevant to it, but they aren't a portion of the legal advice that was given or the legal issues that were raised in the context of the meeting where you were deciding or being told by attorneys about the pros and cons of the case. The facts that we've heard are, open and notorious, I guess. I mean, they're facts that I think you could probably see in a newspaper.
Right.
Right.
And if you listen to my approach, I did check with Ms. Frakes before I opened my mouth on this topic.
I
And
heard
s-
you do that.
and I
If I
stuck-
listened, which I did.
And I stuck to the topic at hand and not the advice given.
Oh, jeez.
So moving on from that, the next was criminal justice and public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, we met to go over, I just wanted to let the public know again that we're going out and having a Whatcom County Council Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee listening tour throughout the whole county to talk about criminal justice issues, jail, and things like that. Here's a nice poster you'll start to see up around the county. Just to give you a quick rundown of the dates, the first one is next Tuesday, April 3rd, at the Deming Library, 6 to 8 p.m. On the 17th of April, at the Linden Library, 7 to 9 p.m. Bellingham, May 1st, right here in Council Chambers, 7 to 9 p.m. Sudden Valley on May 15th at the Sudden Valley Dance Barn, that's 7 to 9 p.m. Ferndale at the Ferndale Library on May 29th, 7 to 9 p.m. Bellingham again for the District 1 folks at the Fairhaven Middle School Commons. That's June 12th, 7 to 9 p.m. And then up in Maple Falls, June 26th, 7 to 9 p.m. at the East Whatcom County Regional Resource Center. We hope that many people from the public will come out and give us your ideas and your thoughts on what you feel about criminal justice in Whatcom County, and we hope to see you out there.
Anything further from criminal justice?
That was it.
That was it. Next up was planning. Anything further from planning?
No updates.
Okay.
I have a
Then-
question. Did you get my text message?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's how, certainly can be chairs. Davis, tell them what you missed.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes, okay. So we had the council was going to be asked to recommend to vote on option A or option B on the triage facility, whether we do the renovation and addition or whether we do the standalone facility, correct?
Move to vote in favor of the standalone facility.
It's been a motion and a second for the standalone facility as opposed to the renovation and expansion of the existing facility. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0 with Mr. Sadhu excused. All right. Was that all that you had, Ms. Frakes? Yep, great. The next item up was the special committee of the whole, was a discussion regarding amending the council code to combine various sections, including Title II Administration Personnel, Title IX Public Peace and Morals and Welfare, Title 15 Building Instruction, Title 16 Environment, Title 20 Zoning, Title 21 Land Division Regulations, Title 23 Shoreline Management Program, Title 24 Health, and creating a new Title 22, which would be Land Use and Development Procedures. We've had several discussions on this. We're going to have some other discussions, and the purpose is to combine repeated sections in the code in a more easy to read and follow format for citizens. With that, is there any other items starting down this end? Mr. BALLEW? Ms. Brenner? Mr. Donovan?
Just really quick, a couple weeks ago, we kind of left something hanging with the response to the Cascadia Law Group, the council providing direction in terms of what we hope to get out of it as the final bit of that work product. I just want to throw that out there as we still have some money in the budget, and we need, I don't know if fairly soon we have to get direction in terms of what we want as a specific ask from them just keeping that out there.
Mr. Byrd.
No updates.
All right. Council member updates. Anything? Mr. BALLEW? Ms. Brenner? Mr. Long, Mr. Byrd? I have nothing. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.